So while there are corrective measures in here, items 2 and 3, really the heart of it is item 1, which is simply that instead of asking the libraries to run this report on a regular basis, we will undertake to do it for you and email the results to each library. And that will be done through scripting rather than manual human intervention.
I will do that every morning at 6 a.m.
And just that.
I have questions about this, but I can't tell if everybody else is just dying to have a turn first, because I can't see you.
That's fine. Go ahead, Ann.
I think that we had a chance to have a discussion only via email about this with our staff. We talked about what we do and what we want, what we have. And to me, the 1st and 15th is not often enough, especially since it's just scripted in there. I love the idea that that would just then automatically happen for everybody. I'm going out on a limb, but I think I'm right in saying that we're looking at our shelf every day. So now I would also say that if something is expired for a long time at our place, it would be because it isn't on the shelf where it's supposed to be about, and then we don't know who has it. And so I really like the idea that then there would be an automatic final solution to that would not necessarily involve us having to hand call places and figure out what money is supposed to go where all by hand. I like this automatic way of doing things. So I would shorten it all up.
And this is James. I would actually disagree, and for the reason that, dependent on your size, the more frequent email, for my institution, 1 week is plenty when we do it weekly. And I don't know that if we're getting emails weekly, then we're kind of doubling up the work at our library.
So you're thinking you'd continue to do it your own way and then use this as a backup way?
And actually, one of my comments, though, was the intention behind this, the thing that I wonder is if really we want, I'm trying to formulate an example here. So if I have an item that just expired yesterday and you send the report today, then that's coming on that list. Now, if we're running our expired hold cleanup once a week, I don't really feel like I need to get a list of stuff that just expired because we will clean it up. So I'm wondering if the intention here is to catch sort of the really errant items, then there should be a delay in the initial. So on the 1st and the 15th, you would say, well, if it's already been expired for 7 days, rather than everything that's currently with that expired status. And so to me, that's more. Does that make sense?
It makes sense, but I'm watching Cheryl's reaction, and I'm thinking, I'm seeing her wheels turn as far as the script. To how to script it. To look for here, it is one method within the SQL, but to then do expired with this date range complicates the script.
It should be possible. It will complicate the scripting a little bit.
So to give you the date that it did expire.
Yeah. And
so you can automatically look and say, oh, this just happened, I'm not worried yet.
That's an option too. I mean, I'm fairly confident I can rewrite the script to have a delay built in, but then the question becomes, what is that delay? Is it 3 days, is it a week? Everybody in the region does their lists a little differently, so, or what Charlie's suggesting is I just send the report out and you sort by expired date and ignore the ones that have just come expired.
My one concern with that would be procedurally, if the intention is to catch the really bad stuff, that people are going to get in the habit of being like, I'm going to delete this every time it goes out. because I'm already doing that work, why should I pay attention to what you're sending out? Because I kind of feel like if you're just narrowing down the items ahead of time, then it's like you really have, a list of, let's say, 10 items rather than every library and their 15 items that have been expired for simply one day. You know what I'm saying? Like,
and that would be my concern about sending it more often. Would be if the expired hold list were to go out daily, I would definitely get to the point where I would delete it. But once a week or once every 2 weeks, I would go, whoa, this is important. I need to deal with this, or I need to have a staff member deal with it.
Well, this is Donovan. Here's the thing. I think that's really a great point. What we had in mind, and we don't have to stick with what we had in mind, but just to help illuminate the conversation, we saw this as a safety net. It was not intended to replace any process, any procedures already happening. The problem is every library is different and has their own processes in place with their staff. Even libraries of the same size might differ in how they handle this depending on whether they're having staff do it or library pages or interns or whatever. So we were just trying to create something that would fill in the gaps. And I guess in the scenario that James was bringing up, what I probably would have said when we were writing this was, if you're getting the report and you know that in the next week you're going to be taking care of that because you have a weekly process in place, don't worry about it. If something goes wrong, it'll be on the next report and you can deal with it then. And that really would be in keeping with letting each library have the freedom to handle this information however they want. Now, that is not as ironclad, maybe, as some other ways of doing it. So I'm certainly open to that possibility.
I guess I got all excited. I was thinking like, wow, fixing this will to get rid of a manual process that we do here, with a scripted process. I was like, wow, I get to be lazy, so.
And this is Donovan. I really want to jump on that because that's absolutely possible. My only concern is that does every library in the region share that same vision and want to use this that way? This is where our independence occasionally complicates life. Because certainly what Ann's talking about, yeah, it could be done that way, but does everyone want to do it that way?
Well, Ann, this is James. I guess I feel, sorry, Ann.
No, be blunt, because I can't see you. So you have to say what you really mean.
Okay, I would say no to Donovan's question simply because then what is SELCO's role in this organization that our library should be doing? And that's kind of where I come from, because what other things could you just start doing for us that we should be doing? Okay, well, maybe you should. I don't know, I guess, yeah, maybe you should. I don't know.
Well, yeah, I don't know, James. It's interesting.
I just want to kick back and let Cheryl do my job.
Well, admittedly, this is a step in the direction of SELCO staff taking on tasks that have, since all the way back to those first libraries came online in the early 80s, things that we would have expected to be done as normal library management at the local level. And so I'm wondering, though, is if we do this and we get a couple of months under our belt with the first and the 15, is it going to be so cleaned up that the reports will go from long reports to one or two that people, I see that if I in the library, the step one would take care of it. We would never get to step 2 and 3 because I now had this reminder, and I'm expecting that the length of the list, sort of like the whole OCLC arrow report, is going to go like from long to real short, real quick.
Could I bring something up too? I don't know if this is an issue with all of the librarians throughout the whole region, or just a few? And if it's just a few, can we just address that with them?
It's most.
Got it.
That was one of my questions, and that's why on this agenda or on the description up above, it actually is that most are not running that report.
I almost, when we were writing this, Cheryl and I talked about, we almost bolded this line just to make that point. It became clear that most libraries are not routinely checked.
What is the number of materials that, when you ran the last report, that actually not where they should be?
783.
Significant.
Yeah.
Across almost all libraries.
Yeah. Very few.
Not everybody else.
What percentage had been within the last, because if somebody hadn't yet done a cleanup.
Yeah, I ran it, when did we write this? Oh, I wasn't even looking for things, there was a week delay between when I ran the report and between anything having come expired. So I think I ran it on.
So you're saying 783 items were more than 1 week expired?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I have a question. So I know that we have things on there that have been expired for a long, long time. And we do it because there's no way to, we'll lose the information on bad eggs that we think just steal. So we put our items out on a self-pickup. So if things might be listed as expired that we suspect people did come in and take and never checked out, or sometimes people come in and check them out and go back and they are returned later. But so there might be other reasons why they're on there, and I'm wondering if everyone knows what it is you're supposed to do with something that has been on there that you don't know. Okay, fine, I can't find it in my building. I don't know who has it. I don't know if that person ever got it. What are the steps that I'm supposed to be taking after that?
I would say this is Donovan. I would say I'm looking at Cheryl. It's probably the same process that you would follow if an inventory reveals items that are supposed to be available on your shelf and can't be found.
But it's not my item.
Claims return. Yeah, I understand. I'm just saying it's probably along those we would start talking about that.
But this is Ann. I want to make sure I understand that if you have a patron that picks up someone else's hold and does check it out, then the hold is cleared at the point of checkout. So,
sure. So in my example, bad egg patron puts a hold on something. We don't know they're a bad egg yet. They put a hold on something, and it comes from Zumbrota. And it is on our self-pickup area, and someone, or sometimes things go missing from there. Not very often, but they do. And if they go missing from there, for whatever reason, we don't know why they went missing from there. So I can't automatically bill the patron who placed the hold because I don't know that it was ever in their possession. I don't know who has the item. I don't know where the item is, but it's not my item. Got here. It's an expired hold item.
But then do you let me know that I might never get my item back?
I assumed that there was, and I don't do this particular task, so there's probably lots of things that I'm saying that are wrong. But I would have assumed, I would assume myself just that Horizon would have some sort of mechanism for that, like, well, it's marked, it's not showing up in the system anymore, or whatever. And I know that our library doesn't ever look and try to get money from Zumbrota for something that we may have sent. So I'm sorry, it never occurred to me to think that I have to come up with a way to get that library money or do anything, because I figured, well, that's what the lost ILL reimbursement funds are for.
This is Donovan. Cheryl.
So I'm probably doing something wrong.
Okay. In this scenario, I don't know if you can tell me right off the top of your head or not, but in this kind of scenario where an item was requested, it got to the pickup location, and then it vanished.
Yeah,
Didn't
It's
get
gone.
checked out,
Yeah,
it just
it's in
hung out
thin
on
air.
So the status on it is transit hold at that point.
once it gets checked in.
Once it gets checked in at the library. So then it goes to hold. Now,
It's on the
nothing
hold
else-
shelf. Yep.
Now, if nothing else happens, it's still in that hold status. It has not
And then
been
it goes
checked
to
out.
expired hold.
Right. So yeah, does it go into lost and missing like any other materials? What happens? It just stays there forever.
Somebody checks it in, or somebody changes it's missing, or somebody...
So the answer to your question, Ann, is that the expired hold, that is the mechanism by which we're supposed to be able to catch these kinds of things.
And the reason
what
we
this is.
leave them there is because we have then cottoned on to people who then seems to have a history of that, and then we confront those people. Then we're able to stop them from using the system any longer. So then they lose their privileges.
But I mean, Ann, you are correct in that you don't know that it was the person who placed the request who necessarily walked off with it. It could have been someone else that went up and just grabbed it. So
Absolutely. And in our system, and we're one of the few that has self-pickup of holds, every once in a while, people that we know very, very well will come and say, you told me this DVD was here and it's not here, and that item has vanished.
So in this scenario, it might be that the buck stops at the library and it really can't be passed on to any patron.
And I'm one of the
Right.
But
then we would say, well, okay, we're not in the habit of writing a check from Austin Public Library to Zumbrota Public Library for an item that was lost during the interlibrary loan process. I was under the impression that is what the ILL reimbursement was for. I'm sorry, I'm misspeaking. The claiming part.
So I'm going to guess. I have no basis for this guess, other than, if you simply think about percentages. If 783 items are at least a week or more having had their hold expired, I'm going to guess that the number of the portion of that 783 are the scenario that Ann is worried about right now, that they got to the library, got checked in, got on the self-pickup shelf, and walked out the door with the wrong person or the right person never checking it out is probably small. So
I hope so.
The goal of this project is to get the majority of that 783 in your attention, so they'll go, oh my goodness, yes, that red book has been sitting on the hold shelf for 3 weeks, and we really do need, or 2 years in one case that I personally know of, that we really do need to get that back to the owning library.
James, I think even though there's no question on the table, there's no motion on the table, I would like to somehow call the question because I have to leave it back.
So we made this an action item. If you're comfortable with acting on it, fine. We could try it for 6 months and see what happens, or we can table it. The staff would prefer that you act on it.
We were looking for a recommendation to carry this out.
Well, I would, even though I'm the chair, what I would ask for a motion, and I won't be the motioner on this, but I would actually ask for a motion to pass this, but put a delay on the status to somewhere between 7 and 10 days, because I feel like I don't want a huge list coming out, and I think that even if you can't when you get it out, you can sort it like Charlie suggested, and then just delete past a certain date and then attach it. So it's not, so it's a little extra step, but it's not like a, I don't know how you feel about that.
I can automate it. Is that a motion on the table?
I second.
Did you just make a motion, or did you?
I was requesting a motion, but
Michelle, did you
We got a 1 and a 2.
I'll make a motion in James language.
Any other questions?
So the question on the table is to adopt the motion that we accept SELCO's proposal with the modification that there is an expired status delay of
7 or 14 days.
7 days.
7 days. Is everyone clear on the question? Okay.
I don't want Cheryl staying up all night trying to figure this out.
No.
Okay.
Oh, I'm here later. All right. All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, please say no. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Were we going to reevaluate it in 6 months or?
Motion.
That was part of the motion, I think.
Motion, but we can. I mean, we can always bring up anything you all want us to.
It's not working. We didn't change it.
I think that's right, and I also think that if Cheryl runs the report and we're down to 22 in 6 months, then we know it's working.
Can you keep us strong?
Yeah, I mean, if you feel like it's not working, please bring it back to the committee. We'll reevaluate.
And to understand why you're laughing. You are missing, oh, are you missing it? Okay, do this quick. We want to.
All right, I'll run through this real quick. Okay, so this is the newest roadmap, and there's just a few highlights I want to mention. Looking at the core products and services for Horizon. The 7.5.3 upgrade that you see there that's in the first quarter of this year was not on the last roadmap, so that is new. And the 7.6 upgrade has been now pushed back from first quarter this year to third. So I don't know for sure, but apparently they've decided to do an interim release in there. What I can tell you is that interim release 7.5.3 will include some new functionality and it will kill some bugs. It's going to add some things such as the ability to have patron photographs in the patron record, as well as the ability to use the scrolling, which I'm told they used to have, and it disappeared at some point, and we've heard that it is sorely wanted. So I promise Cheryl I'd mention that. We're happy about that.
Good.
And really, that's all we have to say. Well, I take that back. There's no change on Horizon Web Services. Version 2014.9 is the version that's out there. That's the version that we are on. So we are up to date on that. I'll stop there before I go on to the Blue Cloud stuff. I told you I'd be fast. Okay, with Blue Cloud, there's only a handful of things on here that really concern us a whole lot, and they're all towards the top of the list. Enterprise Portfolio, the last roadmap had General Release 7 in the fourth quarter of last year and version 4.5 in the first quarter. That has not changed, so apparently Cersei Dynix's plans are still the same. Right now, we are on General Release 6. We have not. We were waiting for some other things to get resolved at Cersei Dynix first, but we will probably be requesting that upgrade in the near future. And let's see. One of the things that we are really looking forward to in General Release 7 is that it will allow punctuation to be stripped out of search value fields. So hopefully we shouldn't see so many cases where a search gets tripped up because somebody put in a comma or a colon or something along those lines. That's something you probably argue should have been in there all along. I know we've got a lot of help desk tickets about that, so hopefully that will fix that. Going down to the third item, Blue Cloud cataloging. This is in the works. It is live now, and it is ready for Horizon, so we are excited. The web services upgrade that we had made that was referenced in the last document was specifically to get us to the point where we could use this. We have a server set up and ready to go, and we are talking with Cersei Dynix about when we try. So for those of you who have not heard about this, Blue Cloud cataloging is the first in what they promise will be a series of web-based modules that will work equally well with Horizon and Symphony. So the dream is that you'll be able to have a web-based module that you'll be able to use from anywhere. Cersei Dynix's dream is that if you don't have to relearn the modules, it'll be easy for you to migrate from Horizon to Symphony. We don't have any plans to do that, but I'm sure that's what they would like to see. There is some really cool looking functionality in Blue Cloud cataloging, so I know Cheryl is chomping at the bit to start playing with that. We are not planning to just roll this right out to all the libraries and tell you to start cataloging. We don't think it's quite ready for that yet, but we do want to get it implemented so that at least we can start playing with it. Once we are feeling confident with it, we'll probably ask a few pilot libraries to help us out. And then someday, in the fullness of time, when we think we're ready, maybe this will become workflow. But that's getting way ahead of things right now. The next line, Blue Cloud Analytics, is the next module that they are making available. That is out right now, although it does not work with Microsoft databases. It's only available for Oracle. That is supposed to change in first quarter 2015, according to this roadmap. We are very interested in analytics. It replaces Web Reporter, although I should tell you that Web Reporter still serves as the underlying engine. Basically, this is a new interface. It is not free. We don't get it automatically just because we are a customer. It's an add-on product. So therefore, we will be investigating it this winter and spring as we start to put together our budget proposals for next year, for next fiscal year. We will be taking a look at that, and I'm sure you'll hear more about it from us. That's all I have on the roadmap. I really burned through that fast, so if there's any questions or comments, I'll be happy to take them. Any questions?
Not necessarily related to the roadmap, but just because I know you read and hear things in other parts of your lives. If you hear that Cersei Dynix has been acquired by a new venture capitalist, that is true. It happened January 7th. They went from a company called Vista Capital that has been the financial capital backbone for 8 years. They were changing their portfolio, and Cersei Dynix has been acquired by another venture capitalist, IVC, which initially stood ICV, Intercity Ventures. Based on everything that Donovan and Cheryl and I are reading, it's a matter of the money people behind the scenes. People change their portfolios up. Firms change their portfolios up. It is not a change in management. It's not a change in software direction.
No, they just switched out one set of corporate overlords for another. Yep.
But in case you see something in your reading of where you are getting your economic information and news, and you suddenly see Cersei Dynix acquired by ICV, the library world has been informed. And we're not worried. Okay.
Are there any announcements? If not, we've reached the agenda end, so this meeting is adjourned.
And just to remind people, March meeting got pushed back earlier in the month. So if we
push forward.
Forward. It's earlier. Not pushed or pulled.